Sioniga Dakwadoa Cara Cowan Watts. Hello, everyone. This is Cara Cowan Watts with Cherokee 411. And today we're here with my actual cousin, who's Katie Punnett, situated in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And we're introducing her to our Cherokee 411 viewers in our world as our next, she's going to cover genealogy, DNA, and she's also going to partner with me to help cover our murdered missing Cherokee peoples across our three tribes. So we're not going to disclose everything we're doing on the MMCP project because there's so many people that need to be doing this work, but they're not. So we're going to do it as community members. But first, before we get into all of this, let's talk about Katie. Katie, we want to hear from you. Tell us who you are as a Cherokee citizen. Tell us who your famous ancestors are, or infamous, or not so famous, because they're still important to us. So tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Cara. I'm so excited to be doing this project. I am obsessed with my ancestors and with genealogy and everyone else's genealogy and everybody else's ancestors. So I always knew my great grandfather was from Muskogee. His
Okay.
parents, they had their, and he's the Dawes enrollee with his parents from Porham and Briartown. And they are the West family. And his father was the famous lawman, John Calhoun West, who was a legendary Indian Territory marshal. He actually took Belle Starr to jail and testified against her for horse thievery.
Wow.
And it's a crazy story because the Stars are actually our cousins. So it was a whole inner family drama, as you can imagine, during that whole Wild West period of Indian Territory.
You're going to have to do an episode just on this.
I actually, I keep finding videos other people have done about him, like historians. And it's weird. I mean, I grew up with these pictures. I always knew it was something special, but I didn't realize everybody else thought he was as special. So it's very cool. He was 6'5", and he was legendary around Indian Territory for his size. And he was one of those guys who would go out on these, with a posse and a chuck wagon and go hunting for outlaws, but also people who were encroaching into Cherokee Nation. And his younger brother, Frank West, actually died in a shootout with Sam Starr. They both died in this shootout. And Belle Starr is said to have said, "There he is, get him." And they both turned and shot at each other. And then, of course, they both labored for hours dying because, it was a 19th century gunshot wound. But he is actually, his picture is in the Marshall Museum in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Wow.
And he was the baby brother, so he was pretty young when he did this. And I'll be sharing some pictures of these guys and getting more into that story because it's cool.
How exciting. And part of our job at Cherokee 411 is just creating new content, but bringing existing resources to the table and saying, this is good stuff, this is bad stuff, why and why. Not just,
Right.
Don't use it. Let's tell them why don't use it or why use it.
Yeah, it's a minefield out there in those genealogy spaces. There's all kinds of weird stuff where people have either decided that they want to be Cherokee and they fixate on one of our ancestors and they steal them, and then they try to make their tree fit to that person, and then that throws all their research off. So if you get a hint and you click on it and it's one of those things, you have to sort through all kinds of nonsense to figure out what the real truth is. And
And that's going to be part of your adventure on Cherokee 411 that you're going to share with our listeners. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Vetting hints is a huge, huge part because even
Okay.
if we're all Cherokee, so it's not like we're trying to prove who we are. We know this. And a lot of us already know who our ancestors are to a point. But if you want to flesh out your tree with other documentation that tells you more about their lives and different periods that they lived in that were historical, you really want to make sure you're not attaching to anything weird
Okay.
or misguided. Well-meaning probably, but misguided on there. And I would say I will get a bunch of hints. I'll have 20 hints, and only one of them will actually be accurate to my tree.
Okay. Well, we look forward to that because you're gonna tell me even how to better use ancestry.com that I'm paying for.
Yes, I mean, it's a great resource, especially for us who just want to have a place to put in our thing and to be able to access all those documents, but it's not perfect. And I've watched all their videos that they do about here's how you look for your Cherokee ancestors. I mean, none of those videos are made for us. They're all made for outsiders who want to dip into this search. They're not made for us. And so my idea with this is that it's completely geared to us. We're not going to waste time with that stuff other than here's a red flag here and there, that kind of thing, because those spaces are full of that stuff and we always have to sift through it to get to our thing. And I just want everybody to be able to come right straight into this and know it's about us. It's about
Okay,
us.
well, I love that. So before we keep, because I know we have a lot we're going to do with our listeners. I can't wait to learn from you about our genealogy and history sifting, for what lack of a better term right now. I know I'm excited about partnering with you to document our missing Cherokee people, both contemporary and historical. But tell us more about yourself. I got you off because I was so excited about your story
Yeah.
about our relatives or West and all that. Uh, and in our family, outlaws are in-laws. So I almost made a crack joke when you were
Right,
talking.
right, right. Well, and that's how it is. I mean, he was going after his cousins half the time. I mean, it wasn't like, yeah, it's a conflict. My mom has a pillow that says my family tree is full of nuts, and that's what makes it great. These interesting, weird, and also to see how your family maybe have been in kind of aligned in one thing at one point, but then how over the years they changed their alignment and the people that they were working. It's just you can learn so much from it. So, okay, back to me. I was born in Tulsa.
Okay.
My dad is where I come by my Cherokee blood. My grandmother was Blanche West. She was raised in Porham, Briartown, and a little bit in Muskogee.
Okay.
She was part of that generation of women in the 30s that left to find a husband. So she married.
So is this after Grapes of Wrath and Dust Bowl, or it's still Grapes of Wrath and Dust Bowl?
It's kind of, it's funny because my dad was born in the 30s, like, not that long after she went to find her a husband. And they were living in the panhandle at the time. And she told him stories about soaking towels and sheets in water to put over the windows so that, because she had two young babies at home to keep the dust out of the house. So I never even really thought about having a connection to the actual Dust Bowl stuff, but that's the world my dad was born into. Um, and that was her experience as a young mom, which is unbelievable. I can't even imagine having to wake up, go to bed every night, washing everything, wake up in the morning, get it all wet, hang it up over the windows every single day to protect your kids so they can breathe. It's unbelievable. But anyway, I got sidetracked. So I was raised between Tulsa and St. Louis, Missouri. I always had visits back in Tulsa with my aunties that were my grandmother's sisters. And one of them was extremely into her genealogy. And so she's one of the people whose notes I inherited. When
Okay.
my dad died, I started inheriting things. And when my uncle, who is in his 90s now, he also gave me all of his stuff that he had because he saw that I had a passion for this. And so that's how I've acquired this whole family library of pictures and I have original letters written, before statehood. I have all kinds of stuff, but I didn't, I knew I was Cherokee, but I didn't really have a full picture of my family and how they played a part in our history until I actually started digging into this stuff myself.
And I think that's what's important. You know, I grew up on tribal council with Jack Baker, Dr. Dwayne King, Dr. Julia Coates, Chief Smith, all these people, David Hampton, bringing these things to the table in our community meetings, daily discussion. And I don't hear that anymore.
Yeah.
So I was excited when you said yes to us because you're bringing our personal context to the greater group back to us. And I think that's important. I think that's what our kids have lost, that they don't feel as connected.
Right. And that's good or bad. You know what I mean? Like, because we can't pick everything that our ancestors did. And there have been things that like weren't spectacularly wonderful that, some of my ancestors have done. But it's still important that my great 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 grandfather was hanged down the street at the at the prison here in Tahlequah. I mean, that's a story. It's context. It teaches our kids what we've been through as a people, how we've changed, how we've navigated, the strength, the resilience, problem solving, even because if you look at it, we're all related at some point. If we go back far enough, there's a cousin around every corner, as you and I found out. And sometimes I'm double cousins with people, and I've ne- I've never lived in a place where I'm potentially related to everybody I run into. But that's what's important. And I think if we all really, we say family, but if everybody really understood how connected our family histories are and how they intertwine and overlap, maybe we would take better care of each other. I don't know, but that's what I would like to see because there's those roots are there and they really mean something and they do hold memory for us, even if we're not 100% plugged into the entire story. And I hope that I can get younger people interested. I hope that I can get older people talking about their memories. I mean, that's another thing. It's getting those elders to tell stories while they're here. I was lucky because my grandmother and my aunties had all known Captain John West. So they had stories from their childhood of hanging out with this notorious lawman and thinking that he was just, I mean, they all thought he hung the moon, So I grew up with those stories. And I don't think I didn't find out about Belle Starr until I maybe was in my 30s.
Okay.
And then that really blew my mind because I'd always been fascinated by the women of the Wild West. And so to have a connection was crazy. But then also, I've got Fields girls who married into this West line. And so the Fields family is incredibly interesting, historic. They were a part of so many things that still affect us today. And a funny thing, I just found a family Dawes enrollment card for John Calhoun West, his wife, and my great grandfather and his siblings. They are on the same card with Redbird Smith and his family. That blew my, I was like, I just happened to, oh, Smith, what? So I'm thinking about them, like, what were they standing in line at at the enrollment at the Dawes Commission? Like, how did they end up next to each other and on the papers?
Send it to me. We'll ask Jack Baker.
Okay, yeah, because
No. And then even if he doesn't have time to come on, you're going to have an answer.
okay, yeah, because
Find that out.
I have questions. And
Yes.
the Smith family is connected to the Fields family. Crossland was Crossland Fields Smith, and Crossland and I had figured out we were cousins through Richard Fields. So there's a story there, and I'm like, I'm pulling on those strings, and I'm going to sniff it out.
Very good. Okay, so what else do you want to tell us about yourself?
Professionally, my career has been in the beauty industry, so it's probably
Yeah,
not.
because you're always so helpful to me, and I struggle being a girl, so I get this. Yes.
My mom was a Color Me Beautiful consultant in the 80s. So my first job was working selling makeup in her store. And then that led to a career as a makeup artist. That I became a licensed esthetician and a licensed nail tech. And I'm still plugged into the beauty industry, but I'm not really working in it anymore. But I mean, once you're in, you're in. You can't really, leopard can't change their spots. I'm a girly girl, but I'm a girly girl who wants to get down and dirty with some research books and weed whack at the allotment and take care of family graves and dig up more stories. So I often think when people hear that you're in the beauty industry, they kind of think that you're like really shallow, just surface and you don't like to get your hands dirty and that kind of thing. But that's not me. That's not me.
I love this. No, you've been awesome. I'm so glad you moved home.
Me
And
too.
then I didn't know we were going to go on this adventure. Okay, so they are going to learn more about ancestry.com and the use of those tools. They're going to learn more about hard research and libraries and the sources online. They're going to learn more about DNA matching.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then we're going to delve into the broader world of murdered, missing Indigenous people or Indigenous women, MMIW. And then we're going to go and try to visit with these families that have been impacted and look at the records for all our Cherokee people across all three tribes
Yes.
and document that. So there's more to come. What else would you like to share before we sign off today?
Let's think. One of my next things I'm planning on doing is taking my 1930 census records for the family.
Okay.
And I have a family photograph in front of the house. We're going to go to the address and we're going to stand in the spot where it was and
I
talk about
love
the
this.
photograph and the women that are in the photograph. I'm super excited to do that. One of the women in that photograph is my Aunt Lucy when she was about 10. And I grew up with my Aunt Lucy. I loved my Aunt Lucy was a teeny tiny little woman who wore a whole arm of silver bangles and smoked like a chimney. But she always had the best stories, and I would love going to her house in the summertime in Tulsa. And she and my grandma would make me fried chicken and what they called their down home cooking. And just to be able to go to the place where they grew up and where they were little girls at such a crazy time in our history is I feel so blessed that I lived here. I really do. I I'm so glad I decided to move home. I
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Okay. Well, we have a lot of exciting stuff. I can't wait for you to roll this stuff out. I think you've got something already in the works for us on the genealogy research side. I'm looking forward to following your family and seeing how that is, because then that's going to spark ideas for how my family needs to document their stuff.
Yes.
Um, and then we've got a lot of work to do, unfortunately, on the murdered and missing Indigenous people, our Cherokee people.
I
So,
mean, since I moved back a few years ago, I've seen it all in real time. It's not just something that you read about. It's actually happening here in our community. And if there's anything I can do to help shine a light or put an extra set of eyes on things to just to let the families tell their stories, I am honored to be able to do that. So I'm thrilled that you asked me.
absolutely. And I think, we're going to do our best. There's some real time cases happening right now
Yes.
to use the network we're building of Cherokee people to push those things out. But we know we're not law enforcement, and we know, we don't have, but one of the benefits of building this Cherokee specific network is that when these things happen, we can push them out and maybe help each other locate our family members
Yes.
and
Yes.
friends. But we're going to be mainly geared, unfortunately, to like documenting and building something that shows the full story over time. That hasn't happened. When I looked at the BIA sources, when I look at any of the 3 tribes, they have not done. And Katie, I'm excited about putting our brains to work for something good in the community.
Me
Even
too.
though it's a bad topic, I feel like we can help move that needle and help those groups that have really been helping those families and tell those family stories.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's more to come. I'm excited about it. Katie, welcome to Cherokee 411's family. And
Wado.
voila. And listeners, until we see you again, wado.
Join the conversation. Discover stories and insights that matter to you. Subscribe to Cherokee 411 with Cara and stay connected with independent media, real, relevant, and unfiltered.